Hey guys, it's your lovely host here, Mistress Nightmare, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to post a lot of videos like I promised for the past couple of days. Hopefully I can change that. So today we'll be reading another Yandere one-shot, and it's your favorite psychotic clown, Laughing Jack. This story again is written by the lovely MadameBlackSpades, and it's called Monochrome Has Read. Before we get started, here is a little warning done by our lovely author. This fanfic contains the following of highly detailed gore, swearing, slightly sexual content, horror, laughing jack, messed up shit, yanderiness, ownership, death, and takes place in a carnival. Again, this is another message from our lovely author. I don't want to hear any negative comments that you didn't like the story because you had to follow this list. You knew what was going on and have it because it was in the beginning of the story. So I don't want to hear you sniffing or bitching to me that your disapproval of this because I'm just going to delete it and forget about you. So yeah, I'm writing what I want. And to those haters out there, you can all suck it hard with a hockey. Okay, before we get started, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe to this channel if you guys want more creepypasta fanfictions out there. And again, guys, these are one-shot stories. There's not going to be a part 2 or continuing since the author did state that these are one-shots. So anyway, let's get started. Hurry up, my best friend Elizabeth called out. Well, basically shouted. Shut up, Elizabeth, you fucking bitch. Yeah, hurry up. I want to ride at least 6 rides before the police catches us for trespassing. My other friend, Natalie, agreed. You shut the fuck up too. Elizabeth's bitch. I basically shouted back. She had a marvelous legs on her, slightly banged up by wires. Whatever. She reached up to the other side and jumped off, rolling towards us. Yeah, let's see. Does this satisfy you, you faggot? And where is the other faggot? Elizabeth shouted. Amy. She went to go take a piss. My other friend shouted. Well, they can go meet us there, I said. I didn't want to deal with the confrontation, so we both started walking, gave a wink to each other, and smirked. Yeah, let's go, they say in unison, as I led them towards the supposedly haunted carnival. It was abandoned for the last 5 years, after a ride malfunctioned and killed the passengers on board, and some of the other rides, and those who know walked below it. 108, I said. 108, they once again said in unison. I can't believe that they closed this place down. Only because 108 people died. They nodded their heads as the other two arrived, as we walked in silence as we approached the still closed carnival. Rumors. They say after it was shut down, the rainbow colors began to drip off the metal and the games of the place. They say it is an anniversary of the end. You can still see the shadows of how it all went down. How the crane lost control and swung the cart into the air and into the Ferris wheel, fell loose off its hinges when one of the carts flew off its base It exploded and the wheel rolled off, rolling over some pedestrians who weren't fast enough to escape. They say this place was highly flammable. It went up in flames in seconds later. They say it was a clown that had done this disaster. They say when you pass here, you can hear a song play continuously by unknown reasons. They say if you hear that song, something bad will happen to you later on. They say at night you can hear an evil laugh coming from there. They say sometimes, far away, you can see the place functioning like it was new. They say when you step onto the property, there is no percentage of you being heard of ever again, nonetheless of being seen. They say a lot of things. Rumors are rumors. They're not meant to be real, right? We stopped in front of the entrance. It was covered by police tape. I snapped my teeth at it with one swipe of my hand. I ripped it with force. My friends laughed at the entrance of the carnival. We all looked around and saw the buster. I chuckled and went down to the control panel. Are you pussies are going to go on your strong boners? Get on the ride and find out. I flicked my tongue at them and smirked. They squealed and hopped into the car, buckling themselves in. Ready? I was surprised that they left the keys in the ignition, but happy all the same. Go, all my friends screamed. I twisted the key and pulled the red lever. The ride lit up and the voices before every ride came on. Welcome to the carnival, kids. I'm Marcia, and this is the Buster. You'll experience horrors like never before and watching out from any props that will get ya. Have fun and enjoy the ride, an animatronic voice called out. The car jerked backwards and charged forward as I heard an evil cackle and thunder's boom inside. An occupant's scream was let out from their mouth as they went faster and reached me. They were panting as the machine jerked forward before sprinting backwards. Swiveling the keys were heard. I guess the car went into the Buster lane. The green light confirmed my theory as his evil laughter exploded in the small room. At the end of the ride, my friends were laughing. Holy shit, that was fun as hell. Damn, I forgot all about that ride. It was more fun than missing with Mark. We all laughed and continued going on the rides. Merry-go-round, spinning, raising the other world, zombie apocalypse, fast clockwork, the trap, the freak show, Titan's return, PTRU, and hours passed. We were all snacking on the things that we brought along. For some reason, the carnival lit up. We didn't mind. It was fun. The other rides lit up too. Even the ones that we didn't ride, they were moving themselves. They were working without any of us controlling it. We didn't mind. We got to go on all the rides. It was filled with group things. We were too busy to notice a thing. Too busy to fear. Too busy to run. Too busy to care. My black hair swiveled with the wind as we twirled in the teacups. We got off and laughed. Thanks for the ride, the Queen of Teacups. Come back soon. We'll miss you. The sound sounded more demonic and more like people speaking it all at once. We all looked around, looking for the rides that we haven't gone on. That's when I noticed that the Ferris wheel was fixed, and so was the spinner. I blinked. It was still here, working with people on it, laughing. People walking around us like they used to. Kids got their face painted, and their parents tugged to the games to win their children some stuffed animals. The clowns handing out balloons, a young couple making out and hugging each other. I checked my watch and blinked, and with that time stopped. It was 3:36. Wait, I remember that the whole went down at 3:45. I heard the song play. Coming from the big tent, it sounded so familiar. But it was never there before. Then I saw it. When we came in, the lights flashed and the singing. A small old man on top of with a top hat standing at the star attraction with a red pillar waving his black cane in the air. Come one, come all, witness the magic behind these curtains, the red and white. No one seemed to care for him as he continued their actions as it was replaying history. We did, though. We moved our feet when we didn't want to. We didn't say that, but I can tell that we were pushed before another step forward. We entered. Not our minds. We were hypnotized, but our bodies. With each step, I was right. This was a replay. Something went wrong with the spinner. The cart departed and flew, and one of the base of the Ferris wheel. The hinges broke off. It rolled. It crushed the children and their parents, and the couple, screaming in agony, rung through the air. Fire burst into flower, wilting in seconds, later to ash, black ash. The color started to drip to the floor. As it was never there, the song became clearer. It was Pop Goes the Weasel. And the occurrence was singing the tune as well. We reached the entrance. We all gulped, automatically in fear. Why can't I move? I want to go home. Please let us go. They mouthed. We shivered. When the occupants went faster and made our legs move, we squeezed our eyes shut and gritted our teeth as we passed through the wide opening flaps. I turned to look behind me. My black orbs opened wide. There was no colorful carnival. Only monochrome. I turned to look to the man. My pupils straight in fear. There was no little man, only a dried up skeleton, still burnt. When we entered the tent, 10 feet from the flap, our visible chains had released us. Without a second thought, we scrambled towards the closed flaps, only for them to close an inch away from my friend's fingers. Why leave so soon? This show just begun. And evil laughter rang through the room. My friend screamed in the darkness before the sound of something being ripped, opening her muffled mouth. We were scared. What happened? Can you hear me? Where are you? Another shout from my friend was cut off as well. This time, she wasn't muffled. She screamed out in pain. My eyes. What's going on? Was another screamed. You have made a choice. Elizabeth, Natalie, or Annie. You can stay here and be with your friends, or you can leave with them and take the exit on the right. A strap of black and white pillar was pulled towards an exit as the light came from outside, turning bright into a point where it was almost blinding. But just looking at it, I only flinched when I heard Natalie screaming, thinking of the fear and adrenaline rushing towards our bloodstream. On the other side of the tent were shadows of people, the ones that died in the premises. Children with missing limbs, parents with broken jaws, couples with loose skin, teenagers with popping bones, elders with blistering flesh, workers with blown heads off, burns, damage, left to rot, haunting. Through the panic light shone as the three of us saw our friend's organs thrown on the floor and guts exploded out of her mouth. She lay there dead. Her once blue eyes filled with life were gone as she held her stomach, stumping on her internal shouts of her mouth, blood dripping down of her tan skin. It ran down her chin in layers to the floor. Natalie was on her knees with her palms covering her eyes. My eyes, she chanted. Natalie, what's wrong with your eyes? Take your hands away, I screamed, trying to stay calm, but I was terrified. I kneeled down on one knee and circled my friend around her forearm. She hesitated but did so. I gasped and fell backwards on my butt. Someone was behind me and threw up. I was frozen in place to see who. Her eyes were no longer there. There were just bloody sockets. Blood spewed down her face as she cried as the metallic liquid. You have no eyes, I whispered as I tried to cover my gaping mouth with my hand. As I sucked in a heavy breath, tears escaping my eyes. Bile rose up my esophagus as well. I swallowed it and down and grimaced at the awful taste. I turned back towards the exit to my injured friend. I gulped, removing my black tea as I shivered at the drop of temperature. I pressed the cloth to Natalie's injury as I turned just in time to see Elizabeth speak. How about a trade? I'll leave you these 4 and you let me go out of this tent, she shouted. What are you doing? We have to stay together. Here for Natalie. We have to at least take June's body back to her parents, I shouted at her and thought back to the front. We were all in the same position, but in different circumstances. You're crazy. Why should I stay here for a bitch that's bleeding her rags off through her eyes? And the body? It's just dead weight. You can stay here and die, and you too, Annie, she pointed. What? Why? She argued. Because I said so. Plus, I already told the ghost that I'll leave him, you 4 hoes, for my ticket to leave. She stomped her foot. So what do you say? Do we have a deal? The voice laughed as I felt a claw hand run under my tank and something warm and slimy slid up my elbows up to my shoulders. I looked to see, but no one was there. And nothing but the demonic voice brushed past the plastic walls. Leave the 4 little bodies for one exit to the tent. Yes, 4 I can leave this tent and run out of this damn carnival. You can leave the tent." The shadows began to get more vibrant as they poured onto the wall and pressed into their ugly faces against it. Elizabeth sighed in relief and sprinted towards the exit. The shadows got more violent. She was one step away from freedom. She faced us and smirked. "Oh, don't worry about little Mark, Annie. I'll take good care of him." She laughed and pointed at our faces, but stopped when she felt something tug her clothes. A force pulled her back by her long blonde hair. A black hand was striped with burned fingers in her mouth and yanked, ripping the tissue that was on her cheek. She screamed in pain as more hands covered her body, pinning her to the tent wall as it bit and bit her. She scratched at the hands to the exit as we saw her disappear through it. It was covered in blood as she pulled her upper body to it. Almost transparent plastic show. The shadows were beginning to eat her. Bright red liquid splattered on the walls and floors and them. When her body was pulled to the exit, she was pulled by her torso was off her lower body. Her guts spilled on the floor, flopping like a dead fish. What connected her to her lower self was her spine. It was getting clawed at, and bit by bit, the creatures of the dead She reached a hand towards us. "What are you guys doing this? I gave you the girls for my leave," she choked. "You see, darling, you asked if you can leave and get out the tent, not the carnival," the voice cackled. Its laughter, amusement in her pain-stricken face as she started her eyes towards us. "Please help. I didn't mean it. Please help me. We can leave this place together," she panted and smiled weakly, but we knew it was fake. Everything she said was fake. Her smile, her words, her. She was a cold-hearted bitch that only cared for herself. Everything went silent except for her weak grunts of pain and the gnawing zombies that were chewing loudly of the mixture of flesh as she cried in silence from pain. Annie walked to her and gently took off Elizabeth's hand and smiled, but stopped when she heard Natalie say, "You can die in hell, you rotting bitch. And also, hands off Mark. He's mine." She squeezed her hand and threw it back to her face. The force was enough to send her flying towards the hands of once human cannibals. "No," she screamed in pain and release in her voice. Annie stand next to me. "Elizabeth, I think Natalie's dead." She whispered softly. I looked down to see my blood-soaked hands cradling Natalie's head in my arms as I pressed my shirt to her wounds. I laid her head on my lap like a tired child. I sniffled as tears ran down my face as I cradled her close to my chest. I screamed loudly in broken heartedness and sadness. I wanted to save her. I really did. "Don't worry. I know you tried. Unlike Elizabeth, who just wanted to abandon us in this hell. I promise you," she whispered and laid her hand over mine, entangled in our fingers. "I promised you that we will leave this place together and never come back." I promise that we will take the bodies back to their parents. And I hate to say this, but we'll take what's left of Elizabeth too. I sniffled and looked at her. She looked straight ahead in the shadows that was feeding on the now dead body of my used-to-be friend. I smiled gently and squeezed her hand in assurance. As we started at the mangled body of Elizabeth, I sighed sadly and looked down to Natalie as I slowly removed my shirt from her face. I saw her, she was smiling. I frowned my elbows and turned towards my last friend's body. I saw underneath the organs she was smiling too. What's wrong? Annie was cut off as I felt red liquid drip from my face like it was sprinkling of beginning of rain. As I turned to her, my eyes welled up with fresh tears. Her body slumped to the floor, her fingers loosened out of my hand, connecting to the ground with a small thump. I stood up, dropping Natalie's head to the ground with the shirt. Holding her decapitated head was an over 6 feet tall, black and white, with long black mangled hair that reached his monochrome feather shoulders. He was deadly pale. His skin and cone-swelled nose, black lips were smirking and really pointedly white, sharp teeth. He wore black suspenders across with a white stripe with striped socks that matched his sleeves that show monstrous claw hands that were wrapped in bandages like his lower torso. He smiled sickly at the head that was now holding like it was a trophy. She smiled back and then dropped the remains to the ground. Then he turned towards me. I stepped back. Then he pulled out an accordion from behind his back. I knew what was going to happen next. I gasped and covered my ears to avoid listening to that evil song. Round and round the cabbage bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey went through the tail, which it was fun. Pop goes the weasel. My legs went weak and I blacked out once as he finished singing his song. Unknown period of time. My black eyes fluttered open as I grunted, "Where am I?" At the moment, the memories were returned to me, and I screamed as I tugged on the restraints. It was in my lanky color, which happened to be my favorite color, black undergarment, as I cried in fear. Will I be killed? Why did he? The door slowly creaked open. I gasped and turned towards the noise. He stood there, half naked. Then I realized his plan, what he was planning to do, so I took on my restraints and squirmed when he advanced towards me. When he reached the edge and climbed on top of the table, I think it was, "Please, let me go. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this, please." I shivered when he straddled my waist and leaned down over me. His bare arms clawed up mine and entangled his fingers with mine. He stared down at me with lust-filled eyes as a hint of a bit of crimson painted on his cheeks. "What a compromising position," he cooed. I made sure not to let anyone see us in this position. What does he mean? What did he do? He parted his lips and slithered his snake-like tongue over my breastbone to my collar. "You made me want you. I always wanted to taste you. Now, I know that you are certainly sweeter than any candy. He chuckled deeply and continued licking me. Stop it, you monster. I spat. Through gritted teeth, he stopped and looked at me with a dark gaze. I gasped again and quivered when he raised his hand and scooped his claws across my face. Don't you dare speak to me like that again, you little bitch, he screeched. I'm your owner now, and you do everything I say and like it. His venomous tone spat as he tore the bra and panties off my body and admired my exposed body. Now, my sweet, sweet Joanna, I want you to moan. Then he angled 2 fingers. Moan, laughing Jack, and you better mean it. With that, I lost something precious. Mama told me to save until I was ready.